What's happening, fight fans? Welcome to the second episode of the MMA Mindset podcast. It's going to be another regional roundup, going back to Golden Ticket Fight Promotions 22, which was yesterday. Before we get into that, I just want to say thank you for the reception and the feedback on the last episode. It did so much better than I ever thought it was going to do. I was expecting maybe 50 views, and it was upwards towards 150. Thousands of views on the reels on Instagram. So I can't thank you enough. It gives me motivation to keep doing it, and the feedback that I got through messages saying it was a really good idea. It just meant the world to me. So yeah, I'll keep smashing these out. First episode with a guest. It's a pleasure to introduce the voice of Golden Ticket Fight Promotions, Mr. John Prentice. Thank you very much for joining me today, mate.
No problem at all. Thanks for having me. It's a
Ah,
pleasure.
it's all right. Like I said, John's actually the voice or one of the voices of Golden Ticket. Been there since I started going over a year ago. But no, fantastic promotion. My home show. Me and John don't really have a enough good words to say about it and to say about Guy and Dan and everyone that puts that show together. And a fantastic card last night, John.
Yeah, absolutely. Just echoing what you said. I mean, the guys at Golden Ticket put on one of the best shows in the whole of the UK regional scene. I mean, many of the guys, many of the amateur guys that you speak to on the circuit will say that they're treated like professionals on that show, and I think that just kind of emphasises how Dan and Guy run that show. They make it as professional as possible. They're always putting on good fights as well, and yeah, GTFP 22 last night was another one of those great events. So it was yeah, absolute pleasure to be cage side for it, calling the action, and yeah, what a fantastic night it was.
Yeah, great night. And like I said, you had Melissa Dixon on commentary next year as well as Steve. Great to have people like Melissa, and I think Fabian Edwards rocked up. Jai
Yeah,
here,
yeah, Jai, Tim Wild,
Jake
Tom
Hadley.
Breeze.
Yeah, there was and then Dan Motherheady being the third man in the cage is insane. There's so many opportunities I think I've got over the past year of covering Golden Ticket where I've got to meet these fighters and just kind of talk to them on a person to person level rather than feeling like a fan. It's more like I feel like yeah they're just here the same as I am just to watch this. It's such a good atmosphere.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, guys, yeah, like Vaughan Lee and stuff were there as well, like UK MMA pioneers, and yeah, as you say, like these kind of regional shows are great places to kind of meet these people, speak to these people. Like you say, on a professional level, or if you are a fan as well. I mean, there's loads of people asking for pictures with Jai and Tim Fabian and stuff, and again, I think it just goes to show as well that just for the up and coming amateur guys, just how good it is to have those guys watching as well, and it kind of shows that they don't feel that they're too big to still go to these events. And I mean, they're always supporting their teammates. I mean, the Team Renegade guys obviously are local. Um, they're always supporting their guys. They always come out in numbers, and yeah, you get all the guys from the gym there to come out and cheer on the fighters when they're competing on the shows. And yeah, it's just fantastic to have those in attendance and checking out the future of mixed martial arts in this country as well.
Yeah, definitely. I think it speaks levels that these guys start on shows like this, and I think it gets to the amateurs then where they think, "Oh Christ, like Fabian's going to be going to be fighting for the title in Bellator," and they could just be thinking to themselves, that could be me one day." Like everyone starts on regional shows and they build themselves up. So yeah, I think it just offers fantastic platform for these guys.
Yeah, most definitely.
Let's get into the card. I want to start with these guys because I was really surprised. I've never seen youth MMA before. I've never seen it live. I've seen BMF do stuff because I know they do like a full card, and I've seen them delve into it loads. But we had Alex Devine versus Monty Wedge, and then Jacob Spruce versus Oscar Pazanski, I think his name is.
Yeah.
These guys, like, they're so young and they were just it's such inspiring to have these kids, and they listen so well to their corners, and these were just, even though they can't do the conventional things of strikes to the head and twisting submissions and stuff, they're just they're the next generation, and the future of UK MMA is bright when you've got these young kids at that age coming through and being so dedicated.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it was the first time that I've called any of the kind of youth junior ranks, and yeah, to be honest, it kind of blew my mind as well because they were so technical as well. Like these kids were literally like 14 years old. Steve was saying on commentary that this is like pre-amateur level. You're not even at amateur level yet. You're like amateur level, and there was the skills on display from these kids was absolutely phenomenal. I mean, some of the scrambles and stuff in those fights, some of the transitions, the takedowns. Obviously, you said with the striking, obviously that will kind of come over the years because it is unconventional. You've obviously only got the body shots and kicks to the legs and things like that. But and then obviously no ground and pound to the head when you've got them on the mat. But yeah, but the other side of things like the wrestling, the jiu-jitsu, scrambles, it was honestly phenomenal. And these kids as well, they've got ridiculous gas tanks. I know it's only 3 2-minute rounds, but I've seen some guys. I mean, I did 3 2-minute rounds, and by about 3 minutes in, I was done. I was blowing. So to have like these kids just like at the end of it, they're just like, yeah, well, I could do another like 10 of those in a row. It was absolutely fantastic. And as well, I think it's great to have them on a show like that in front of a crowd in the full size cage, like the amateur and the pro guys will be fighting in as they kind of go through their kind of mixed martial arts career. I just think there's no kind of bad thing about it. It's all good. It's all fantastic, and it's all paving the way, like you said, for these guys to be the kind of next generation and future talent of mixed martial arts in this country, which is brilliant.
Yeah, exactly. And one thing that I noticed is they're like sponges. They take in all the information. So when, like, 'cause I know Dan had a couple in there, the guys from Intensity and a couple of guys from Empire, they were shouting instructions. And sometimes you see it amongst the amateurs and the pro ranks is you don't really get that instant, right, make that adjustment. But as soon as they said it, they were like, boom, right, I'll make that adjustment. So it's just I can't wait to see in 10 years time what the scene's going to be like, because I don't think anyone, maybe a little bit of this generation coming up now who were like 18, 19 have been training since they were really young, but now kids are going to be doing MMA specifically from being like 5 years old. So it's going to be ridiculous, and I hope I've got my nieces. I hope they get involved in it, and we'll get them to some shows.
Yeah, definitely. Like you said, we're going to kind of see the benefit to this in like 10 years time when obviously we've got world champions galore, I imagine, from this country because yeah, it just was unheard of 10 years ago to be training specifically mixed martial arts. Obviously, like karate and stuff. A lot of kids do like karate and taekwondo and those kind of things. And again, they're fantastic bases for mixed martial arts anyway. But to actually be training specifically mixed martial arts from, like you say, 5, 6, 7 years old, and then going regularly, training regularly, then competing in these kind of junior ranks from like 12, 13, 14 onwards, these guys are going to be phenomenally well-rounded by the time they get to like 18, 19, 20. And then, like, I mean, as you know, MMA guys don't hit their peak until they're like 30 years old, 31, 32. So just all that experience behind them. It's quite scary to think about actually, because a lot of the people that we see now that we like kind of look at in the UFC, Bellator, PFL, etc., some of them have been training probably since they're like 12, 13, or some of them have been doing, like, say, other disciplines when they were younger, but focusing specifically on mixed martial arts, it's in 10 years' time, it's going to be insane.
Yeah, definitely, definitely exciting. So like I said, props to them guys. Hopefully they keep at it, and we'll be able to say in a few years' time when we're at Golden Ticket, it'll be like, I remember watching these guys in when they were kids fighting. So yeah, props to them guys. So moving on to the amateur card, we started off with Lewis Mason versus Victor Gunnison from Molyneux MMA. I love these Icelandic guys when they come over. They're so full of energy and they're so intense, and they just literally look like Vikings that have come over and they're invading our lands. They're just such a great bunch of guys, and they always come to scrap. There's never any excuses. They just come to fight, and it didn't last very long, this one, but Victor slick, and that squeeze on that arm triangle, it looked like he pretty much had him tap him from being when he was in the mounted position with him, and he pushed down and squeezed, and he just got that tap so quickly, and he looked so composed, and he was really confident before the fight as well, and he knew what he was going to do when he came in there, and did it in a matter of minutes.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, as you said, the guys that come over from Mjolnir, they literally have got ice in their veins. They almost come over and they're just straight away in that zone, but they always want to come over and have fun with it as well, which is great. But Victor, I've been really impressed with Victor Gunnison whenever I've seen him. We've seen him a couple of times now on Golden Ticket. I think that's his second fight. He's won both of them. Moved on now to 3-1, and he's going up against a tough guy in Lewis Mason as well. Lewis he's no joke himself. He was 1-0 coming into that fight, and I actually thought that fight would possibly go the distance. It'd be one of those back and forths. I thought it'd be a really close fight. So for Victor to come out and finish him in the first round, I mean, it just goes to show his levels, and I definitely think Victor Gunnison's a name that we need to be looking out for in the future, because he's super talented. He's a really good fighter, and I think he can go to some good level.
Yeah, exactly. And like I said, I spoke to him. I spoke to him after the fight, and he unfortunately said that the reason he wasn't on the last card is because actually he lost his family home to a house fire. And
Yeah.
he's obviously had to deal with that. But he said he's not sat there and felt sorry for himself. He's dusted himself down, and he's just going to keep fighting. So the mental fortitude to be able to come through something like that and then still fly over across the continent, come here and put on a display like that. There's nothing you can really say for that sort of mental fortitude and resilience.
Yeah, absolutely crazy. I mean, I think he had to move to like a separate town or a separate kind of area completely because of what happened. And yeah, I mean, a lot of people would use that, especially as an amateur, a lot of people would use that as just an excuse to stop training and be like, well, let's sort all this that's going on in my personal life, sort all that out. But no, he just literally used it as ammunition to come in there and get rid of Lewis Mason in the first round, and yeah, showed superb professionalism, and I expect to see more of the same from him going forward, and I look forward to the next time we see him in the Golden Ticket cage as well.
Yeah, definitely props again, guys. Moving on to the next bout, a couple of debutants, Mitchell Monger from Lions Gym, and then Mika Matabiri. This was two, like I said, two debutants from great gyms coming in. And I spoke to Mitchell before the fight because I was just sat around with James and Melissa and that, and he seemed really composed. And he said the camp had been fantastic, and he was just wanting to get in there. It was just a shame, like I said, that he took a few shots early on in the round, and he never really seemed to recover from that. And he wasn't moving as much as he should have done to probably get out of the way of those strikes. And Micah took full advantage of that. And as soon as he smelled blood, he just laid it on and got the finish and looked like an animal in there.
Yeah, Michael was relentless. As you said, as soon as he smelt blood in there, he was just like he unloaded everything he had in the arsenal to finish that fight, and he did exactly what he said he was going to do as well before the fight. He said that he was going to come in. It's either going to be a war or decapitation, and yeah, and he just looked so physically strong as well, and those guys are so well trained at Fearless. I mean, he's got a great team behind him, and I think he's going to be a scary guy going forward if that debut was anything to go by. But yeah, it's a shame for Mitch because he never really got a chance to kind of show what he's got. He got caught early on, and as we said, it was just a barrage of strikes after that. He didn't really have the opportunity to kind of get out of the way of that pressure. It'd have been interesting to see if he'd have kind of been able to clinch up and maybe get a takedown and then kind of see out the round and then go into a second round, kind of see whether that flurry had any impact on the cardio of Micah, or it would even be good to see what kind of Mitchell could have come back with in that second round. But yeah, Micah was just absolutely relentless. Didn't let him off the hook at all, and he'll be back. It's all a learning experience, and I reckon we'll look back at that fight in a year or two's time and think like, what a difficult debut to go up against Micah. So yeah, I look forward to seeing both of these guys again. Look forward to seeing obviously how Micah can kind of progress going forward into his second bout, and Mitch, I'm looking forward to seeing what he's got on offer, because unfortunately, like I say, we didn't really get too much of an opportunity to see his skills. But that's what these amateur events and amateur fights are for. And I'm sure he'll come back stronger. Great team behind him, obviously James Dixon, Melissa Dixon, all the team at Lions Gym. So yeah, he'll come back stronger as well, and no doubt we'll see him again in the golden ticket cage.
Yeah, definitely. That set a kind of a precedent for Fearless that night, I think, as well. I think that was really important to their success later on in the night to get that victory straight away, and in the way that it happened as well. I think it really gave them momentum for the rest of the card. Like I said, with Mitch, he'll be back. He's from a great gym, and he's from people like Melissa, Andre, James, who have got fantastic mentalities. So they're not going to let this bring him down. They're not going to let this stunt him. They're just going to be like, look. And I say this to amateurs quite a lot. It doesn't really matter too much what your record is at the amateur level. You're there to build experience. When you get to the pro level, it's like, yeah, your record matters because that's what's on paper. But yeah, what matters is you're getting your experience, getting as many fights as possible, getting as many rounds as possible, and putting yourself in as many compromise positions, positions of advantage, so you know how to react in those specific positions.
Yeah, definitely, and yeah, you've hit the nail on the head. It's not really about your record as an amateur. It's just about getting that experience, getting all the different looks, facing against all the different styles, so you know what to expect when you get to the professional ranks. And then obviously from there on in, you try to build that positive record, and then obviously you get to places. But even when you get to professional level, even if you start losing those first 2 or 3 fights, look at Bailey Gilbert, for example. He had a real rough start to his professional career, but he's then since gone on like a 7 or 8 fight winning streak. He's signed with Cage Warriors now. Obviously, we saw him beat Thomas Paul at the last event in the main event. So yeah, so even a professional, if things don't go your way those first few fights, you can most definitely turn it around. But 100% at this amateur level, it's about getting that experience and facing up against those guys that make you uncomfortable in there.
Yeah, certainly. So, like I said, look forward to see both of them. The next fight on the card was one that I kind of pinpointed early on because I thought it was going to be a fantastic fight. Jordan Cox versus Mikhail Aslanov. That was a contender for fight of the night straight off the bat there. Aslapen's just like small, stocky dude, really young. I think he's only 19 years old, and Jordan's real tall and long. And it was just for the first couple of rounds, it was just a war. And then Mikhail came in on that third round and just went to town. And props to Jordan, because I don't know how he didn't hit the deck, because he took so many. Oh, that overhand right was landing each time. I don't know how he didn't crumble and fall to the floor. But no, this was one of my favorite fights of the night.
Yeah, this was a fantastic fight, and the game plan from Mikhail was absolutely superb, because he used his superior wrestling through rounds 1 and 2. I mean, that's kind of his strength and his background, from what I understand. Speaking to his coach briefly as well, he kind of favours things when he's on that in that top position on the canvas. But rounds 1 and 2, he kind of I don't want to say it sounds disrespectful to Jordan, but he did kind of bully him. And it was strange because he's the young lad, and Jordan kind of with his big beard and stuff. He's like, it was kind of man versus boy, but the other way around. And then yeah, in that third round, obviously he said in the post-fight interview as well that he wanted to kind of let his hands go a bit, show off his boxing a bit. And yeah, you mentioned that overhand right. We actually spoke about that on the commentary as well. It reminded me a lot of when Khabib caught McGregor with the overhand right, because obviously you're expecting that takedown all the time, and then you just change that level and come over with the overhand right, and he was catching him over and over again. But as you said, massive shout out to Jordan and his chin. I mean, he held out for like the majority of that third round, and a couple of times me and Steve said, like, if you wanted to find a way out, you could easily find a way out. If you were Jordan there, you could have easily just hit the canvas and covered up, and the ref would have stopped it pretty much straight away. But he hung in there, showed tremendous heart, showed a tremendous chin, and I have to give a big shout out to ref as well, Harvey Harrow, I think it was, for that one, because it was the standing TKO, and you could tell when he when Mikhail landed that shot that Jordan was on like wobbly legs. He was all over the place, and yeah, ref Harvey Harrow jumped in there before he could take any more unnecessary damage or punishment. But yeah, for Mikhail, I was blown away by his performance, because his wrestling and top control was superb through rounds 1 and 2, and then his striking was absolutely. I didn't think he was, because of what he did in rounds 1 and 2. I just expected him to do the same in round 3, because he saw there's a clear path to victory there. Take Jordan down, hold him down. Jordan was struggling to get back to his feet. There was an easy path to victory. He didn't have to take a risk and stand and trade in the third round, but he just wanted to show off his striking, and it was super impressive.
Yeah, definitely. I think when you go over 3 rounds like that and show every level of your game, grappling, striking, clinching up and stuff like that, I think that's how you develop, and that's how you kind of find out and showcase your skills and see how so many levels that they train over there, because he's a Molyneux guy as well, isn't he?
Yeah, he was a Molyneux guy. Yeah,
they I bet they train like madmen, because they come in here and they fight like madmen. You never get one of those guys in the cage and think, well, I don't really think this might be a fight that I go get a drink, or I'll quickly run to the toilet. You're rushing out and get there before these guys start scrapping. So no, that was a great fight, and like I said, Jordan seemed okay back when he was having his medical. He seemed like he was okay. But yeah, props to them guys, and like I said, early contention for fight of the night between them two. After that one, Aaron, Bolton, Prashant, Rajan, Rana, sorry. That was a great display by both men, but Aaron looked fantastic. He looked like, I remember the first time I saw him, and he obviously had a lot to work on, and he's taken that and gone back to the gym and sharpened those tools, and now he looks like a real threat. In the striking, he looked comfortable. He looked really good at managing the distance, feinting, which is sometimes you don't see a lot of that at the amateur level. Is a lot of the feints. You see guys, they kind of like tense up and they just want to throw everything and not really setting stuff up. But he was setting stuff up beautifully, and he had a great performance. And props to Prashant as well, because like I said, he was a really tough guy and had his moments in the fight as well.
Yeah, this was a really fun back and forth fight. Actually, it was one on commentary that we haven't managed to watch it back yet, but it was one that we were kind of up in the air over who would take the decision, because it was a really close fight, and like I say, it was a really close back and forth. But as you said, I was super impressed with both guys' technique. I mean, Prashant Rana had some lovely boxing. He was finishing his combinations with those lovely leg kicks. Aaron Bolton, as you said, he's just his aggression. But it's managed aggression. It wasn't like you said. It was beautiful technique. It wasn't anything overly wild or overly aggressive. It was just controlled aggression, landing those damaging strikes. And he's a guy that's really matured in the cage really quickly. From, like you say, from when we saw his first few fights to where he is now, he matures really quickly. You can almost tell watching him that he's one of those guys that. It's a pleasure to coach back at the gym, because it looks like he kind of takes everything in and picks everything up really quickly. And we've seen kind of the leaps in his ability and his technique over the course of his amateur career so far. And yeah, that was a really impressive display. But again, Prashant Rana should keep his head up and absolutely should be proud of his performance as well, because Aaron's a dangerous guy. Aaron's, like we've just said, Aaron's improving all the time, and Prashant Rana pushed him all the way in that fight. That was a real close back and forth, and it's a really fun fight as well. It was action packed. There was no kind of no resting, nobody just kind of chilling out in any clinch positions particularly or anything like that. They were constantly working, and yeah, that was just a a pleasure to watch those two guys go at it.
Yeah, one of many fights on the evening that was just you couldn't take your eyes off it for a second. And I took my brother. My brother's been to a lot of UFC cards, Cage Warriors, PFL, stuff like that. He's been to a lot of the pro cards, and he was so impressed with the level of these guys at the amateur level because he'd never seen amateurs fight before, apart from a few guys back home that we know. And he was like, I didn't expect these guys to basically just be pros with bigger gloves on. So like,
Yeah, definitely. Like Steve said it on the commentary yesterday, that if you'd have put some of these amateur guys against professionals kind of 8, 10 years ago, these guys would be winning those fights. The level for the amateur guys now is it's just ridiculous. And I said as well that quite a few guys that we saw in the amateur matchups could quite easily be competing at a decent professional level already. They'd beat some of the guys on the professional scene. So yeah, it's phenomenal. And for anybody who hasn't been to a show, whether it's Golden Ticket or any of the kind of fantastic regional shows up and down the UK, pretty much every weekend now. Anyone who hasn't been to one of them because they think, oh, it's amateurs, it's going to be like the level isn't going to be great and all that kind of stuff. Like, absolutely go and check it out because the level is fantastic, and they always put on fun fights. There's very rarely like dull fights in these amateur ranks, and I think a little bit of that is because, as we briefly mentioned earlier, that your amateur record doesn't really matter as much as your professional record. It's about that experience. So people can go out there and be a little bit more expressive because, if I lose, I'm not going to lose half my purse. I'm not going to lose out on an opportunity to go to a bigger promotion because I've lost. So you can kind of go out there and be a little bit more expressive. And because of that, you just see phenomenal fights like the Aaron Bolton fight we saw last night.
Yeah, definitely. So, like I said, keep an eye on them guys because I think there'll be some big names in the amateur level and then moving up to pro in the in the next couple of years. Moving on to one of the most intriguing matchups that was announced was the Daniel Myers versus the Callum Turnerfield fight. I know both of these guys quite well. Spoke to both of these guys quite a lot. Daniel, I'm quite close with Daniel. I like to chat to Daniel pre-fight and stuff. And I know he had a couple of issues with the weight cut, but I mean the man's fighting at welterweight when a couple of fights ago he was fighting at light heavyweight. So and he did look in fantastic that fantastic shape, but obviously he did have that a little bit of issue with the weight. He said he's going to keep it welterweight, but he's just going to manage it a little bit better. Unfortunate for him when Callum Turnerfield comes out of the gates like that and tags you early, and he's not letting up. He is going to go until the referee pulls him off, and that's exactly what he did. The aggression was just something to behold.
Yeah, definitely. It was very similar actually to the fight that we discussed earlier with Mitchell Munger and Amika Matabiri. In the fact that Daniel Myers didn't really get too much of an opportunity, unfortunately, to show what he can do at this new weight class. And yeah, big shout out to him as well, first and foremost, for making that drop down from light heavyweight to a couple of events ago to middleweight, the last event, and then obviously now to welterweight, where he looks like he's going to stay going forward. But yeah, Callum Turnerfield, he's known for coming out of the gate aggressively. I think every single one of his fights so far has ended in a stoppage. He doesn't mess around in there. He doesn't want to spend any more time in the cage than he has to. And yeah, it was just one of those where I think he caught Dan with an uppercut to kind of start the finishing sequence off, but then it was just literally up against the fence, just barrage of punches, and from where we were sitting in commentary, it looked like Dan was taking a lot of them on the gloves and the arms and stuff. Obviously, a few of them were getting through. When somebody's throwing like 30 punches at you in like 15 seconds, obviously some of them are going to get through, but I didn't think Dan looked particularly hurt or kind of wobbled or anything. It was just the relentless nature of it. And obviously at the amateur levels, the fighter safety is first and foremost. And if you're kind of just turtled up against the fence for 20, 30 seconds while someone's unloading a barrage of strikes, I knew it's going to be stopped, and that's exactly what happened. And yeah, I think Dan will kind of go away and be. I think he'll be annoyed in the fact that he just didn't get to kind of showcase what he can do, because we've seen in his fights in Golden Ticket. I think that's maybe his third or fourth fight in Golden Ticket, and he always puts on fun fights. He's durable. He's exciting. He kind of marches forward himself. But yeah, he just came up against Callum Turnerfield, who was he was not messing around. And I think that last fight, which he lost back in December, I think that kind of he wanted to come out and make amends for that. And yeah, he just didn't give Daniel any opportunity to get any offense off. And yeah, it was over before it began, really.
No, exactly, and this is a super tough fight for Daniel. Like I said, Callum's a machine. He's done some scary things to some people in the cage. I remember, I don't know if it was December. I can't remember who he fought, but he got that KO in the first round against the cage, and it was a nasty knockout. He's got some power in his hands, and he said to me backstage, he said, if anyone wants to stand there and trade with me, that's completely fine, but it's not going to be a good night for you. He was like, I'll make sure that if I put these hands on you, you're not going to like it and you're not going to want to strike back with me. So I do think, moving on, I think the next fight that he gets, they're going to be looking for looking for a double leg early in that first round to kind of avoid those strikes.
Don't blame them.
Yeah, moving on from that fight, we had Jake Tremaine versus Sam Castillo. This was a really high level fight and super close decision. And this could have gone either way, and I'd have been happy with it because I kind of saw both sides of it. I mean, Jake controlled distance fantastically. He fights in like a Wonder Boy style. He fights very side on from his opponent, uses a lot of kicks, throws that jab out from the hips, awkward angles. And then Sam was just putting the pressure on, trying to push his head into his chest and land some damage. So either way that went, I was kind of happy with it. And even Jake, who I might think may be a bit disheartened about not getting the decision, even back on the behind the curtain when I was speaking to him, he said that he's only got himself to blame. He said he should have engaged a little bit more in the striking and not tried to wrestle when he was getting his kicks off. So yeah, both props to both of those guys. That was a fantastic fight, and I just want to talk a second about the shape that Sam Castillo is in. That guy is built like a Adonis. He's like and that hair as well. He looks fantastic, and he said that he knew he'd done enough to get the victory, and I like that sort of confidence in your display. But no, great fight from these two warriors.
Yeah, definitely. And it's funny you say about Jake and the Wonder Boy stance, because we actually said that on commentary as well. We said that he kind of fights. He's very light on his feet. He's almost in a karate stance. He's got those long legs, and he fires up those head kicks just in the blink of an eye. And yeah, I mean, as you said, he mentioned that he feels like he kind of led to his own kind of demise in that fight. And again, that was something that we also mentioned, because in that third round, I thought it was 1-1 going into the third round. And in the third round, for the first minute or so, he was in control of the distance. He was landing those kicks. He was having the better of the striking exchanges, and then he decided to try and grapple with Sam and try to take him down. But I think, as you mentioned, Sam's physique and stuff, you can tell he's so strong. And that's what won him the last 2 minutes of that round. And I think that fight as well, in the fact that as soon as they got into kind of that clinch position up against the fence, Sam was kind of just bullying him down to the canvas. He wasn't really kind of, I don't want to take anything away from him. He wasn't particularly using great technique. He was just strength. Obviously, there was technique involved, but you could just tell he was kind of physically more strong and more powerful than Jake. And then he was able to take him down and keep him there for the rest of the round. And I think that is what obviously eventually led to him getting the nod in the judges' eyes. But I think Jake will look back at it. It was a superb performance by him, but I think he'll look back at it when he watches the tape with his coach Chris. I think they'll look back and kind of say, if you'd have kept it standing, kept it striking, kept at that distance. It's a case of what could have been, and I think he had Sam's number with the striking, and yeah. But again, you just learn from these things. He'll look back at that and think, I was having success. Why did I initiate the clinch? Next fight, he'll know not to do that if he's in the same position. So it's all a learning experience. But yeah, it was a really fun fight. And it was two kind of contrasting styles as well. Because like you say, Jake came out very karate kind of stance, very kick heavy, and Sam, you could tell he was raw power. He was strength. He wanted to get the fight to the mat. You could tell that he looked more comfortable when the fight hit the mat, and he could kind of control Jake a bit more and kind of work to the back and land those hammer fists. And yeah, it was a fun matchup between two completely contrasting styles, body shapes, stances, everything. It was everything that I kind of love about mixed martial arts.
Yeah, definitely. And like I said, it's not something that Jake's going to look at and think, I've got, I need to strip my whole performance down and start again. It's such little thing that he just needs to tweak now, and then that would have been another win on his record. So like I said, it's not something that's a massive glaring problem and you need to sort out all these different things. Just one or two little things right here, and he'll be absolutely fine. But he said to me that he's a natural flyweight, and this fight was at bantamweight, and Sam's a big bantamweight. So he just said that he thinks that he's going to obviously keep looking at the flyweight ranks, because he said he's a natural flyweight. He doesn't have any issues making the weight, and he said he's built perfectly for it. So yeah, look forward to seeing those guys again, and Jake when he comes back, seeing what improvements he's made. Next fight, another Molyneux guy, and then also one of the biggest characters in the in the sport. I love speaking to this guy, Sheikh Mane. Fantastic performance by Mane. Aaron Franz is one of my personal favorite fighters because I think he's so intense and he comes to bring it. And you know, either way, that what sort of fight you're getting. Unfortunately, he was on the wrong end of this. Mane looked phenomenal, and to get to dominate in the grappling against a guy like Aaron is a super impressive thing to do and can't really be understated. So yeah, Mane should be over the moon with this performance.
Yeah, definitely. I spoke to both Mane and his coach before the fight, and I spoke to Aaron, and I said to both of them that I think this has got the potential to be absolute fireworks, and it was fireworks for as long as it lasted. Yeah, Mane, if you've ever seen him before, or if you've never seen him before, you need to go check out his highlights, because he's absolutely wild, and he's got such a fun style. I think he's got a background in like Senegalese wrestling. And I was saying to his coaches, I was saying to Vaughan Lee and the rest of his team that you can tell that he's not afraid for someone to shoot the takedown on him, because he comes crashing forward with those big bombs. He throws wild punches. He throws those big overhands, and you know that he's got confidence in his takedown defense, and he isn't fussed if somebody tries to take him down, because Aaron's a good wrestler himself. Aaron's a really aggressive guy himself, and to just kind of stand there and be kind of happy to exchange and trade, yeah, just kind of goes to show what both of these guys are all about. I know that Aaron was he was a bit annoyed about the outcome of the fight. I think he felt that there was a foul in the build up to the finish. I haven't seen it. We were waiting for it on the replay, but we didn't get to see a replay of it. But he actually sent me a message afterwards to say that he wasn't too pleased about the finish. I know he was kind of holding his eye. I don't know if there was like a poke in the eye or something in the build up, because he was holding his eye, and it'll be interesting to watch that one back to see if there was anything. But I don't want that to take anything away from Mane, because his finish was fantastic. To do that to someone like Aaron Franz is phenomenal, and he's getting bigger as well. Mane, you can tell from his frame, his physique, as he's getting older, he's getting stronger and stronger, and you could tell he looked physically bigger than his last fight. And again, I think this is the guy that we need to keep an eye on in the future, because I actually thought he won his fight back in, I think it was back in December, that he fought a golden ticket and he lost a decision. I actually thought he won that fight. I thought the judges could have scored it in his favour. So he could quite easily be unbeaten through his amateur career so far. But good to see him back in the win column. Fantastic post-fight interview as well. He was just like he brings so much energy, so fun. And I said, get him on I said to his coach, get him on every single golden ticket show because he's just so fun.
Yeah, definitely. Like I said, you can. I love sort of like the interviews like that because you can just say one question, boom, there you go, off they go for 2 minutes, and it just makes so much more easier. So no, that was a great performance. I think I didn't see what happened in the finish, but I obviously saw Aaron was unhappy about it, and I know you guys are kind of sat here and we were stood here and they were faced away from us, so it was really difficult to kind of see what happened. But like I said, taking nothing away from Mane, a fantastic display. Hopefully, we get him on in September and we can get to see him again.
Hope so.
Moving on, Luke Whitehouse, Josh Adebayo, two guys who are so dedicated to the sport, and Luke's come on leaps and bounds, and he's always game and he's always wanting to showcase his skills. Unfortunately, dropped his fight last time, and I don't think he was quite expecting Joshua to come out. Like, he sprinted across the cage at the start of the first round and the second round and was just in his face the entire time. I think Luke had a bit of success in the first round neutralizing that, but I think there's only so long that you can kind of neutralize that pressure for, especially from a game kid. I think Joshua was only 17, so he's game. He's got that gas tank. He's got that belief in himself and that eagerness to prove himself, and he just poured it on. And then when the fight went to the floor, he got the beautiful body triangle, stretched him out, and synced in the submission, and that was all she wrote.
Yeah, it's a fantastic performance, and yeah, he again, he was one of these guys that came out relentlessly, just non-stop aggression. As you said, the gas tank was ridiculous. You can tell that those guys at the Fearless are so well conditioned because they've got the confidence in their gas tanks to just come out like that. And every time there's kind of a break for any reason, or kind of when the first round started, when the second round started, he just came absolutely sprinting across the cage to take the centre and to start pouring it on Luke. And Luke did well. I mean, Luke took some big shots. I mean, he showed off his chin. Luke's always in fun fights. I love watching Luke fight. His fight against Richard Nottingham a few events ago was absolutely ridiculous back and forth. And yeah, he did well in the first round in kind of neutralising some of the power and some of the aggression. But it was just too much for him. I think he kind of got overwhelmed a little bit in the second round. I think it was just with that pressure. He was just non-stop in his face, and yeah, it was those straight shots down the middle as well. We're just catching Luke all the time, and then, as you say, took him down, worked to the back beautifully, got that body triangle, and they're so good. Those guys at the gym that he trains with are so good in that position at finishing the fight, and that's what we saw. And at such a young age as well, so much to look forward to for the rest of Joshua Adebayo's career, and it's going to be fun to watch his progression.
Yeah, the noise when Luke came out was unbelievable. And for a 17-year-old lad, I could imagine me as a 17-year-old, that'd get to me a little bit, especially
Yeah,
like
definitely.
if I'd have a few people there, but not as many, I'd be like, oh God, he's got loads of people here, or they're just going to be getting in my head a little bit. But for 17-year-old to not let that affect your performance, and to just handle things the way he did. And he said backstage, he said it was quite satisfying to get that win in front of him. You could have had a pin drop after that after that submission got sunk in. But no, I'm really excited to see what Joshua, like I said, 17 years old is one hell of an age to be getting this sort of experience at a show like Golden Ticket. So yeah, props again, guys, and we'll keep an eye out for both of them. Next fight was Julius Bernsdorf, the real life Viking. This man is, I think there's a Netflix show or movie, Norsemen. He's actually like he does stuff like work on that. Like he's part of the team.
Yeah, yeah.
Like it's exactly how he looks. Like his tattoos are so impressive. He's got the bald head. He literally like when Joe Rogan said about Brock Lesnar, this man looks like you didn't used to see men like this. The only time you saw men like this was when they turned up on your beach in a boat and you ran. And that is exactly what he looks like. And he looked beautiful against Casper Clethcott. Yeah, Casper Clethcott. He looked beautiful. He wanted to wrestle a little bit more, but he just said he was really enjoying the striking ranges. His kicks look phenomenal. His distance management is. He doesn't use any extra energy than he has to. He's very, very conservative with his energy, and he's a very disciplined fighter. And I can see him having maybe one or two more amateur fights and very, very comfortably making that transition to becoming a pro.
Yeah, definitely. This was one of those slightly lower paced, lower intensity fights, but it was still a good, really good kind of technical striking battle between these two guys. Because obviously, when you get up to those heavy weight classes, you can't afford to overcommit, because one mistake and obviously the lights can be shut out. But yeah, I was really impressed actually with Julius Bernsdorf's performance. He's lost his last three fights. Obviously, his last two have been on golden ticket, and he went up against Brandon Guest, who is an absolute beast. He's just turning pro, and I think he's ranked as like the number one light heavyweight and heavyweight, and number one light heavyweight, and number two heavyweight in the UK, kind of in the amateur rank. So super tough fight. That went to a split decision. And then Tyler Adams in his next fight, who obviously then fought Brandon for the title. Tyler's got ferocious power in his hands as well. So he fought two really tough guys so far in his kind of career at Golden Ticket. And yeah, I think we just saw a really mature performance from him. And as you said, I think it was the distance control that was the main factor. He had Casper at the end of his punches all the time. Casper just couldn't close the distance, couldn't find the range. We were saying on commentary that Casper really needed to kind of set up the combinations. He was just throwing single shots too often, and for that very reason, Julius could just pick him up on the outside. And yeah, he said beforehand that he wanted to wrestle, but there was no need to. He was comfortable in the striking range. He didn't look kind of phased at any point. He didn't look under any kind of real pressure, in any real danger in those striking exchanges. So yeah, he's got a great gas tank as well for a light heavyweight, because he exactly what you said. He doesn't expand any energy that he doesn't have to. He doesn't waste energy. He's very methodical in his movements, but not in a bad way. In a kind of in a real efficiency kind of way, and yeah, really good performance. And as you said, he's definitely a guy that I could see moving to the pro ranks pretty soon. I think he'll transition well into the professional game. I think he kind of looks like one of those guys that will just be good throwing those knees to the head in the clinch,
Yeah.
and those elbows and stuff. And yeah, he's a scary guy. And as you said, he just looks like your stereotypical like Viking. So if you imagine someone that you tell someone, think of someone from Iceland who's a fighter, who does mixed martial arts, just envisage that in your head, and that is what you get with Julius.
Yeah, you get Julius.
But super nice guy as well. He's completely the opposite of someone you'd think goes into the cage and gets in dust ups with their 205 pounders. He's super nice guy as soon as he steps out of the cage.
Yeah, definitely. Like I said, Julius is a great guy, and he was landing fantastic shots of kicks to the head, which Casper took well. Like he took those shots to the head well. But no, he's a bit of a force to be reckoned with. Like I said, he'll fight anyone as well. So yeah, these guys better watch out for Julius coming in the. He said he's probably not going to be back in September. He said he's got some stuff going on in September, but if we do a December card, not been announced yet, but we'll do if he does a December card, he'll get the Mornia boys on there. So will always be a pleasure to host them again. Moving on from that, I think one of the top prospects on the amateur scene, Matt Howarth versus Callum Deacon. Like I said, this was a great fight, but Matt's a level. He is. I said to him, to see such composure after 4 amateur fights is really impressive. He looked so well rounded in there, so composed, and he just put on a beautiful display of both striking and in some of the grappling exchanges. And he just looked like he really belongs and believes in himself in the cage.
Yeah, he's one of these guys who, despite only having 4 fights, is technically phenomenal. We were saying it was Melissa and I on commentary for that fight, and we were saying that. But to be fair, both of these guys as well. It was a real high level fight, and you mentioned earlier about the in the Aaron Bolton fight. I think it was that you mentioned it about the feints and things like that, and we actually spoke about that on commentary for this fight. You don't necessarily see it that often with amateur striking. You kind of if if they're going to throw a punch, they'll throw a punch. They won't set it up with like the feints and just the small movements. And Melissa was commenting as well on the kind of the outside foot position for the southpaw versus orthodox. Just those little fine details that Tom Breeze and Ash Begg and the guys at Team Renegade have kind of drilled into him. And he's definitely somebody to watch out for in the future, because I think his ceiling is really high. And again, he was a guy that you could look at and say that you could probably turn pro now if he wanted to, and he'd give a lot of guys on the pro scene a tough fight. But he's just super well rounded. He's fantastic in the wrestling. His grappling's superb. His striking's really, really crisp. He's really technically sound. He doesn't make many mistakes. He doesn't put himself in danger. He does everything literally by the textbook. If you've got a textbook out of what you kind of want an all-round mixed martial artist to be at kind of 4-0 in their career, you just see a picture of Matt Howard's face in there, and then he would say, follow this guy's lead. So yeah, really impressive performance. But taking nothing away from Callum Deakin as well, because obviously it was he lost the unanimous decision. I think he lost all 3 rounds as well, but it wasn't completely one-sided either. I mean, he did have some success in the striking. He landed some nice shots of his own. He was aggressive. He also looked really good with those feints, and it was a real technical back and forth between these two guys. But Matt Howard was just that level above in this one, and I think he'll struggle to get opponents going forward. I don't think many people will want to go up against him because his ceiling is so high.
Yeah, I think a lot of Renegade guys find that now. I think a lot of the guys coming out of Renegade find that they struggle to get opponents, and I understand why. It's frustrating for them and it's frustrating for the promotions. But yeah, they definitely do struggle to find opponents. Like I said, there's unanimous decisions 30-27, and then there's like unanimous decisions 30-27, where it's like Callum had done a lot for, say, 40% of the round, and then Matt's got the 60% of the round. And whilst it still goes all 3 rounds against Callum, you have to look at the whole fight to see the bigger picture. You can't just look at the score and think, oh, well, he got dominated, because he didn't. He just was that one step behind Matt, which is nothing to be ashamed of, because like I said, Matt's a super high level guy, and yeah, like you said, I think he could easily go to the pro ranks and make some noise over there. So yeah, the future's bright for him, and future's bright for Callum as well, because like I said, he looked fantastic. Moving on though into an amazing part of the night. This bantamweight tournament has just got me so excited, and these fights lived up to it. The first of the semi-finals, Moshe Aladi versus Zach McGee. Zach's a super talented kid. Him and his brother Dylan are super talented, great pair. We've seen a couple of them. Dylan went on to be Tamas Yakab on Almighty, who's one of the highly touted bantamweight prospects coming out of the UK. And Dylan won the title there. And I thought Zach was going to get it done tonight, but Moshe just looked so much stronger in the grappling, and didn't really give him time to breathe. And props to Zach for to surviving some of these submission attempts, because I thought a lot of the time I was like, yeah, this is going to be done, and he dragged it out to a good decision, which he unfortunately dropped. But Aladi just looked like a different animal in there. He got his game plan, he stuck to that game plan and executed it perfectly.
Yeah, I was really impressed with the laddie because obviously his record, I think his official record's only 5-2. All of his fights been in the IMAFs. But he was telling me that he's actually kind of like 13-2. He's had a lot of fights on the Israeli regional scene. And yeah, so I was super intrigued to see kind of what it was all about. Obviously, I'd seen some footage at the IMAFs, but yeah, I was super intrigued to kind of see what he was all about. And he was really good. His strikes to set up his takedowns were beautiful. They're on point. There were some fantastic scrambles between him and Zach as well. I mean, there was back and forth. I mean, Aladi would get into like full mount or take the back, and then Zach was escaping beautifully, and then kind of the sequence would start all over again. It was real like cat and mouse, and it was just fantastic. But Aladi, yeah, I think he's going to be a guy to really watch out for in the future, across like the international circuit, obviously coming over from Israel. And what I loved about him as well was just how happy he was to be over here fighting on Golden Ticket. He absolutely loved the opportunity to fight in front of the UK crowd. He loved that he was coming out to his country. He was saying that he loves meeting people from all different backgrounds and kind of different martial artists, and then how they started their mixed martial arts career and stuff. So you can kind of tell that he's like a true mixed martial artist in that sense. But yeah, Zach McGee, shout out to him and his brother, as you mentioned, Dylan. He'll be back from this one, absolutely no doubt. He's a really good fighter. He fought to the very last bell as well. They decided to stand and bang for the last 10 seconds of that fight, and there's absolutely no quitting that guy at all. He'll be back. He's got a great team at One MMA behind him as well. So look forward to seeing him back in there. But yeah, Aladi going into that bantamweight tournament final, I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, exactly. Actually, I know I made a. It was the first. That was the second semi final. It was actually the one before that. I've got these mixed round. Just going into Aladi's opponent now. The Jack Humphreys versus Garon Shamar fight was so highly anticipated. Like these two had been going back and forward at each other on social media or in interviews that we'd done with them. They were going back and forth. It proved it was gonna expel fireworks, and I do think it was a little bit of a shame how it ended because I don't feel like it was definitive. I know Jack was saying that he felt he tapped and that he did go out. I couldn't obviously see that from my position. I did ask him about that after the fight, and he was sure it will need to be something that I go back and watch. But to get that position in the first place with the I think it was a dash choke, to get that position and get that squeeze so quickly was phenomenal by Jack. And like I said, Jack and Garon are two really high level guys. I just wish it would have been a bit more of a definitive outcome, but either way, that final is going to be absolutely spectacular.
Yeah, definitely. Jack Humphries is a guy who everyone should note down for one to keep an eye on in the future. Again, one of the fearless MMA guys. So he's got Jake Hadley, Andy Yates, Ryan Hewitt, all those guys in his corner, and kind of that similar weight class to train with day in day out. And yeah, he's a phenomenal performer, and it was such a shame with how the fight ended because obviously you could, as we've mentioned in the amateur ranks, fighter safety is first and foremost for everything, and you could tell Dan Mulverheady was trying to establish whether Garon Shimar was unconscious or not. At one point, I think Garon kind of lifted his leg up to say like, "Yeah, I'm good. I'm defending." And then you could see him kind of kept kind of tugging on the arm to see, "Yeah, is he still with us? Is he still with us?" And yeah, I mean, I don't know whether it was a tap because I haven't seen any kind of replays. I haven't watched it back. So with Jack saying that he definitely felt a tap, I don't know whether there was a tap or not. But I thought Dan Motherhead had stepped in to stop it because he thought that Garon was out and he was unconscious. And obviously, as soon as the Jack let go of the submission, you could tell that that wasn't the case. Garon was kind of fully conscious, had his wits about him and everything, and he was super upset. The the team at Lions Gym, they were super upset. I think they're going to be lodging an appeal against it, from what I understand. Obviously, probably won't hear back from that um, until obviously the bantamweight finals have taken place. But I mean, that sets something up nicely potentially for the future. Jack against Garon too. If Jack comes out victorious against Moshe Aladi, of course, in the final. But yeah, super excited for that final. It's going to be so high level. Both these guys have got quite a similar style actually as well, Aladi and Humphreys. I think they're both very strong on the ground, both very good top control, both constantly looking for submissions when they take it to the mat. So yeah, that's going to be an absolutely fantastic fight.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to the build-up of the final because Jack, and I hope he doesn't mind me saying, he's an outspoken guy. Like he's confident, he's brash, he's got a bit of swagger. He's got the makings of when he goes pro of being a potential superstar. Because, like I said, he's just got that aura about him. And then Aladi's just so composed and happy and flowy. And just, I think that's going to be brilliant how that happens. But I did see something switch when when I know you were closer than I was, but when they were facing off in the middle of the cage, like Moshe was like, "Oh, happy, happy," but then when I think he saw it, when he looked at Jack's face, Moshe Aladi just went boom, and it was just like go time then, and I'm like, "Oh, this could get tasty." This, so yeah, who knows what's going to happen in that final. I did speak to James before after the fight. He came around back and he said that they're going to be speaking to the powers that be about the appeal. Like I said, don't know what the outcome of that'll be, but like I said, that if Jack gets the win in the final, that could set up something something a bit tasty for next year. So yeah, roll on September and roll on that main event. I think it will probably be main event unless there's something huge on there. But yeah, roll on that fight.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and then now the big boys, the big boy heavyweight title. This was super disappointing for Owen, and he was super upset about it. Tomas Pacek is a machine. And that's exactly what he said to me after the fight. He went, he doesn't really speak that good English, but one thing that he did say was, "I am machine." And I was like, I was like, you are a machine. He looked great. He tagged Owen early in the first, didn't let him off the hook, and just swarmed on him and got the KO victory. And to come from 2 days' notice to do that, and he's normally a light heavyweight, floats around light heavyweight, middleweight. I think he weighed in at like 94 kilos, fully clothed, and that's impeccable to carry that power against a big guy in Owen, who I was super disappointed for. Owen's a great guy, great fighter. Had that wonderful head kick knockout at the IMAF. So yeah, unfortunate for Owen, but great performance by Tamas. And that guy's dangerous, and there should be a lot of frightened middleweight, light heavyweight, heavyweights in the ranks.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's tough for both guys. Obviously, you say as Tamas Patrick stepping in on a couple of days' notice, not his usual kind of weight class. Um, in some circumstances, it's a little bit easier to come into the fight in that situation. It's kind of you've got nothing to lose sort of situation. Owen Cartridge, obviously, it's very difficult for him because he's probably been game planning for his original opponent, Jamal Westcar, who unfortunately had to pull out. Um, but Owen is just, he'll fight anyone, anytime, anywhere. He said to me, I'm treating this just like the IMAS where you don't know your opponent until a day or two beforehand. So that's where we are. We're fighting for the heavyweight belt. And but yeah, I mean, Tamas, even though he weighed in a lot less than a lot lower than Owen did, you could just tell he holds so much strength and so much power. I mean, his arms were bigger than my legs. He was absolutely, he's a monster, and he's a scary guy. And yet he was just that overhand right. I mean, when you get to that kind of weight, as we mentioned earlier with the light heavyweights, when you get to that kind of weight, if you just get caught on the chin with a shot, especially those big overhand rights, even in the bigger amateur gloves, you're going to be on wobbly legs. And I actually thought Owen was going to kind of survive the onslaught as well, because at one point he sort of got it into a bit of a clinch, but Tamas did a good job of kind of creating that separation, and then he just landed again that big bomb on the chin, and yeah, Owen went down, and it'll be disappointing for him, obviously fighting for the belts, fighting in his hometown in front of a load of his friends and family. But again, as we've mentioned so many times on here today, that it's just all about learning. He's fought some real tough guys now between the IMAFs and Tamas, and I wasn't actually sure who because Thomas called somebody out as well in the post-fight interview. He was roaring so loud into the camera and into the mic. I didn't actually catch who he called out. So I'm looking forward to watching that one back and seeing who he called out, so we can pester Dan to see if he can get that one matched up.
Yeah, definitely. I think Owen came and he was getting his post-fight medical after, and he said that first overhand right that rocked him and knocked him against the cage, he said that put him out, and when he hit the cage, he walked back up again. And he was like, he never quite recovered from that. But this is just how game Owen was. He was sat there still getting his gloves cut off. And he was like, Dan, can I fight? Can I fight in September? Can I fight in September? Dan was like, let's just kind of see how you are, like, because you don't know what sort of damage has been done.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, he was like, he just wanted to get straight back in there, and I know he felt he let people down, but I don't think any ever stepping in that cage and putting on a going to war is ever letting anyone down, because there's so many people out there who will never even think about stepping foot into the cage. So yeah, he's not let himself down or anyone down at all. Just on the night, he just unfortunately fell short.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Owen's a great guy, and he'll definitely be back from that one.
Yeah, certainly. And then firework effects, I'm going to add. Yeah, boom, the main event, Aaron Gibbons versus Wes Tully. Oh my goodness, 5 rounds of absolute war between both men. Aaron, tough as nails. Wes, tough as nails. None of them wanted to give a backward step. Both wanted to come forward. No handshakes before the fight. They both knew what they were there to do, and they both wanted to get that belt. And Aaron's one of the best amateurs on the scene, not even just at the lightweight, just at everywhere. That was his 17th amateur fight. He's lost to people like Stafford Swainston and George Staines and stuff like that, and they're turning pro now. George is turning pro, signed for Octagon. Stafford's had 2 fights in Vida and won them both by finish. So that's not a slate on your record really when you lose to them guys. But this was just fight of the night. Absolute amazing display of mixed martial arts from both of these men, and I think really we were spoiled at the end of that night to see those 5 rounds.
Yeah, it's absolutely phenomenal fight, and as I said on commentary, as I said in the post-fight interview with Aaron, it was, I think, maybe recency bias, but I don't think it is, because it was that much fun. It was that entertaining. I genuinely think that's the best and the most fun fight that I've seen at Golden Ticket since I've been involved with the promotion, and that's going on possibly 5 years now. It was just an absolute war. Both guys just marching forward, standing exchanging. They're just in the pocket, like phone booth fighting for kind of minutes at a time. And then the work in the clinch as well from both guys. Wes was landing those nasty knees in the clinch. Aaron managed to land some nice takedowns, and then Wes would get back to his feet. And we know Wes Tully likes to stand. I mean, his bread and butter is his striking. He's got Nathan Epps in his corner as one of his main coaches, who's a fantastic striking coach. Obviously, Fabian Edwards and Tim Wilder, his other corner team members. But yeah, Wes is predominantly a striker, and he loves to kind of stand and trade. And coming into this fight, I did wonder if Aaron's game plan would be to kind of wrestle. We've seen in the Alex Gill fight for Wes Tully, he struggled in the wrestling in that one. Wes only fought 2 weeks ago as well, so massive shout out to Wes for fighting 2 weeks ago, 5 rounds in that, and then 2 weeks later fighting this. But in that fight a couple of weeks ago, I think he was kind of dominated in those wrestling exchanges. But it looked like in the 2 weeks from that fight to last night, his takedown defense had leveled up a completely level. I mean, Aaron did land a couple of takedowns, but Wes got back to his feet really quickly. Wes defended a lot of the takedowns as well, which quite luckily for us then, I think Aaron at some point just decided, you know what, forget it, I'm not going to go for any more takedowns. I'm just going to stand and trade with Wes, and Wes was more than happy to oblige. And it was unfortunate that either of those guys had to come out as the loser in that fight, because I know Wes is super competitive, and he does get like, I don't want him to beat himself up over losing that fight, because it was a ridiculous fight. Obviously, one of the judges scored it in his favour as well, so it could quite easily have gone in his favour. It was that close a fight, and it was just an absolutely fantastic way to finish off the event. Obviously, I said this on commentary as well. We were due to have a couple of professional fights that unfortunately fell through, but even so, Dan had put this as the main event. I mean, you get a lot of the cards that you get on the regional scene. If you've got kind of amateurs and you've got pros are always tough, whether it's a title fight or not, or whether if there's any amateur belts on the line or not. You usually always get the pros kind of headlining the card, and then you get your amateur title fights and so on down to your prelims. But I think Dan just knew that this fight was going to be ridiculous, and even if those pros would have those pro fights would have been on the card, these two guys were still going to headline it. And I think it just perfectly summed up the event. It was just absolute fireworks from the first bell to the last, and yeah, I was out of breath just sitting there watching it. It's an absolute pleasure to just enjoy that war between two great guys who I'm sure will have great careers.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I like to watch the fights like lent against the barrier so I can like get a perfect level for it. But I love to feed off other people's reactions. So I remember like you seeing like head kicks land and overhands and stuff, and I kept turning around and being like looking at like my brother and a couple of the guys that I was with, and just being like, "Did you see that? Did you see that?" I was like a little kid watching that fight. It was such fun, and I think Wes was beating himself up a little bit about it, but like I said, you can't beat yourself up against, because you put on a fantastic display, and Aaron's a level. And I think about the fight that we lost, unfortunately, with Shea Ingram due to injury. I can't imagine how that fight would have been between these two. I know it would have been at featherweight. That fight would have been incredible.
Insane. If we can get Dan to match those two up for maybe September, or if there's a card in December, like you say, yeah, Dan, do it, please.
Yeah, definitely. I spoke to and the guys at Ace MMA. They're just phenomenal. Got Cage Warriors champion, people beating like Sam Creasy and stuff like that. Like you've got Sajmil Hook, and unbelievable pedigree coming through that gym, and Aaron's really dedicated to the sport. I asked him if he wants to turn pro, and he was like, "That's my coach's decision. It's not my decision." And we'll see where his career go. But no, that was a perfect advertisement for amateur MMA in the UK, and
100%.
one that I will show my friends who aren't into the regional scene. I'll be like, well, this is what you get on the amateur level. You think, because they watch UFC and stuff, and it's like, yeah, well, watch this and tell me if you put them in an octagon that's branded with Monster and Prime and that, and give them 4-ounce gloves, and you tell me that fight wouldn't belong in an organization like that, and they wouldn't be able to tell us, mate. So no, that capped off a great card. And now finally, the prestigious the MMA Mindset Awards. Yes, right. So I will just get this one out the way, because I think we both agree on this one. And I'm going to say anyway, John, just in case we don't agree on any of them, I'm the one that makes the graphics, so I win.
What you say goes.
But yeah, fight of the night, it's got to be the Aaron Givens versus Wes Tully fight. I don't think we have any differing in opinions between that one.
No, absolutely not. I mean, on another day, it could have been Callum Deakin, Matt Howarth, or even the Aaron Bolton, Prashant Rana fight. But unfortunately, Wes Tully and Aaron Givens showed up for the night and gave us that absolute spectacle. So yeah, hands down, those two.
Yeah, I remember when you were walking to go give the in-fight post the in-cage post-fight interview, and I was leant against the railings, and he just went, "Well, that's the fight of the night sorted." Then I was like, "Yeah, that's that," because I was thinking to myself, I was like, "Oh, I'm gonna have to really think about this," and I was like, "Right, well, that's just made my decision a lot easier."
Yep.
So no, those guys both get the nod from the pair of us. Moving on to submission of the night. I've gone for Victor Gunnison's arm triangle. Have you gone for the same?
I've gone for the same.
Yes,
Yeah,
this makes
Victor
my job
Gunnison.
so
Yeah,
much
yeah.
easier. Yeah. So yeah, that was the squeeze was just so impressive, and the quickness to be able to get that. And as soon as he got hold of it, he was just, I'm not letting you go. So you're gonna tap out, or you're gonna go to sleep, and you can make that decision.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, super impressive performance going up against a really tough guy as well to in Lewis Mason, just to kind of take him down, get him to that position, and like you say, just so ridiculous squeeze to finish that submission, and yeah, Victor Gunnarsson, well deserved submission of the night in my opinion.
Yeah, shouts to Mane and Adebayo. Those guys could have on any other night have got that too, but yeah, Victor just looked great in there. And then last of all, come on, let's make it free for free, so we don't have to argue. Knockout of the night, I have got Tamas Pacek versus Owen Cartridge. Oh, by the look on your face there, mate, I know you disagreed with me. Go on, lay it down.
I've gone for it was between that and Aklepen for me. Yeah, and I just think it was super impressive, Tamas Pacek, because I know how good a fighter Owen Cartridge is, and to do that to Owen Cartridge is yeah, is next level, especially coming in weighing a lot less than him, coming in on 2 days' notice. Um, but yeah, but I just think sometimes with the heavyweights, they've just naturally got that power. Um, so yeah, so I gave it to Mikhail just because we saw through rounds 1 and 2, as we mentioned earlier, him using the wrestling, and then when he came out in round 3 and was just boxing him up, and yeah, and there's just something as well about that finish, when they're kind of slumped up against the fence, and it's that standing finish as well. It's yeah, it was just he put him on jelly legs, and then yeah, the referee jumped in, and I was just so impressed by just by what he did to Jordan in that fight, and the way that he finished it. It was kind of a prolonged beating in that third round as well. It wasn't kind of just one punch that landed clean. It was just such crisp boxing, and then yeah, just that finishing sequence. But I mean, I'm not going to take it away from Tamas either. It could quite easily, and he was very close between the two of those. I was weighing those two up, and I just think for me, just Mikhail just edges it, but I'm not going to argue with anybody over giving it to Tamas, because that bomb of a right hand was vicious, and the way he put Owen Cartridge down and out was phenomenal.
Yeah. Do you know what? I'm a reasonable man, and I think you've twisted my arm, and I fully agree with what you said. The relentlessness in that third round to just, I think after having already a grueling first 2 rounds as well, to carry that knockout bill, that power was something special. So yeah, I am in agreement with you, and I'm not. Yeah, you can ask me, Mrs. I do not admit that I am wrong ever. So very, very well done there, John. But no,
Appreciate
those
it.
are the awards. So I'll get all the graphics out on them tomorrow, on Monday when this episode goes out. But
Love
no,
it.
this has been really fun, John. I've really enjoyed having you on here. You're the first ever guest on the MMA Mindset podcast,
I love
and
it.
it's an honor, mate.
The honour's all mine. I really appreciate you inviting me on. I love, as you know, I love talking fights, and I especially love talking fights that have taken place at Golden Ticket, because it's such a fun event, and they never disappoint. So yeah, really appreciate you asking me to come on the show, and I've absolutely loved it.
Yeah, great. And then Golden Ticket back in September, with another great card. Obviously, no fights announced for that yet, apart from the final of the bantamweight title, which is gonna provide fireworks. So everyone, get yourself down to that. It'll be
100%.
a great night. But yeah, thank you very much for watching. Like I said, if you just follow John on Twitter, MMA and me. You got Instagram?
I don't know. I'm an old man, so I can only just about handle Twitter. So yeah, hit me up on Twitter.
Yeah, get him on Twitter. Like I said, tune in to Golden Ticket and keep an eye out on socials. We'll have all the graphics out. But no, thank you very much for watching.
Thank you.